educators, welcome to Edu Talk Collaborative Conversations, the show where passionate educators converge to talk about all things teaching. In every episode of Edu Talk, we delve into an insightful educational research study and hear from a dynamic panel of educators to discuss the study and then translate the findings into tangible tools for our everyday endeavors in education. I'm your host, Jeni Langfeldt, and I can't wait to share this episode's study with you and introduce you to today's panel of educators joining me here on set at KPAO Omaha Community Television. I'm thrilled that you're joining us today, and I believe that together we can transform education one conversation at a time. So without further ado, let's delve into this episode's educational research study. In the current educational landscape, students interact extensively with digital text. Traditional textbooks have been largely transitioned to digital formats, and standardized testing is predominantly conducted on computers. Ask any teacher and they will tell you that this shift presents unique challenges in fostering deep engagement and cognitive processing among their students. So let's imagine, what if we had a simple yet effective way to help students engage with these texts on a deeper level? Enter graphic organizers. They're more than just tools for keeping information organized. They also help students link different ideas, concepts, and terms together, making learning more fun, easy to understand, and memorable. This week's study explored the effect of two types of graphic organizers, filled in and interactive, on middle school students' learning. Wang et al. Published Benefits of Interactive Graphic Organizers in Online Learning Evidence for Generative Learning Theory in the Journal of Educational Psychology in 2021. Previous research has demonstrated the effectiveness of graphic organizers as a pedagogical tool enhancing learning outcomes. These visual and spatial representations facilitate the organization and integration of knowledge, and they are especially valuable for visual learners, simplifying complex information into more digestible and engaging formats. Generative learning theory posits that learning is more effective when individuals are actively engaged in the process of generating meaning from the information presented to them. This theory emphasizes the importance of integrating new information with existing knowledge, whereby learners construct new understandings and insights. Graphic organizers provide a tangible tool for students to implement the principles of generative learning. By engaging with and filling out graphic organizers, students are actively attending to relevant information, organizing it into a coherent structure, and connecting it with prior knowledge. This process not only promotes deeper understanding, but it also allows for personalized learning. As students create their own connections and associations within the graphic organizer, they are constructing their own unique understanding of the material. In this study, an experiment was conducted to assess the impact of different types of graphic organizers on student learning outcomes. This study involved 60 middle school students in China who were divided evenly across 3 classes. The students aged 12 to 14 were randomly assigned to one of 3 groups: a no graphic organizer group, which had the text only, a filled-in graphic organizer group, which also was provided with the text along with a pre-filled out graphic organizer, and then lastly, the interactive graphic organizer group, which provided a text along with a blank graphic organizer that they could interact with. Every participant wore an eye-tracking device that monitored their eye movements while they read the passage and interacted with a graphic organizer. Following this, they completed a retention test that involved fill-in-the-blanks on factual information and a comprehension test that required students to write a summary. The study meticulously analyzed these outcomes to gauge the effectiveness of graphic organizers in enhancing learning and comprehension. The empirical findings of this study demonstrated that integrating interactive graphic organizers or filled-in graphic organizers into online text lessons significantly enhances learning outcomes for students when compared to the no graphic organizers. Specifically, when you add in the interactive graphic organizer to the lesson, it was found to improve both retention and comprehension outcomes more effectively than the filled-in graphic organizers or the no graphic organizers. The utilization of interactive graphic organizers led to increased engagement with the learning material and was linked to higher levels of student satisfaction and perceived ease of learning. While filled-in graphic organizers also improve retention and comprehension compared to no graphic organizers, the interactive graphic organizers outperformed the filled-in graphic organizers in fostering comprehension, highlighting the added value of interactive elements in a learning tool. In summary, we've explored an enlightening study highlighting the effectiveness of graphic organizers in the digital learning landscape. The research showcases how both interactive graphic organizers and filled-in graphic organizers significantly enhance learning outcomes when compared to text-only methods. Notably, interactive graphic organizers with their interactive features stand out for their ability to deepen learner engagement and comprehension. Up next, our panel of dynamic educators will discuss the implication that this study has on our everyday practices in education. Stay tuned, an insightful conversation awaits.
Please note that the opinions and views expressed by the host and panelists on this show are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of their employers or affiliated organizations.
Hello and welcome back to Edu Talk Collaborative Conversations, the show where passionate educators converge to talk about all things teaching. And today I can't wait for you to meet our panelists. We're going to talk about interactive graphic organizers, but before we do that, I want them to introduce themselves to you. And I want you to think about your network of colleagues and educators just got a little bit bigger today. So up first, we'll have Dr. Ashley Christensen.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here, very honored. I am a current high school teacher. I teach at Bryan High School, and I did not plan to be a teacher, to be honest with you. As a young person, I had no desire. I want to go to law school.
Okay.
So I did not actually do that, obviously. So I actually got my undergrad in criminal justice and psychology, and I worked at a group home and worked with kids on probation who were assigned reporting programs or had dropped out and wanted to get their GED. So I worked in that program. And while I was teaching the GED, I absolutely loved it. I even started my master's in criminology and changed my mind. And so quit that about a fourth of the way through and ended up going to school to be a teacher. Got my master's in teaching for special education. And from there, I have been in multiple roles. I worked as a middle school behavior teacher, as it's a behavioral program, and then I did a couple years there, and now I'm at the high school and I get to teach math and English, and I teach ESL as well, practicing my Spanish every day. It's very exciting. So yeah, it's been quite the journey, and it's definitely unorthodox.
I did not know that about your history. So you were on one side helping kiddos, and now you're on the other side. And how long have you taught then?
This is my 9th year.
Okay.
Yeah, 9 years.
Very cool. Okay. And then we have with us Tanya Santos today, and this is actually my inaugural meeting with you too. So thank you so much for being here. I can't wait to learn about you. Tell us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am currently the director of the Training Institute for Project Harmony.
Okay.
I started out as a teacher, and I knew at a very young age, because of my grandma, she raised me, She was very much my hope champion, and she taught me at a young age to really be able to acknowledge your strengths and talents, and she would call them out in me. You're so good at reading books to little kids. You're such a good reader. You're such a good leader for your siblings. I think you would be a fantastic teacher. And as she called out those blessings or callings on my life, then I started to kind of listen to her a little bit. I made goals to become a teacher. I had the agency or the belief that I could do that because she believed in me. And then I had pathways to get there. What I didn't understand was, being a person of color in rural Nebraska, that there were going to be some barriers that came up against me, and there would be things that would get in my way of my pathways. But I had amazing women along the way, from my grandmother to my auntie to teachers, Mrs. Ostergaard, shout out to my kindergarten teacher, that believed in me and showed me that, you know, that route didn't work, but this one might, and you can overcome that. They gave me different pathways and taught me how to have hope in myself, and I became a teacher. Most of my school education where I was a teacher was in Omaha Public Schools.
Okay.
I started out teaching kindergarten, which is one of my absolute favorite grades. But over the summer, I tried to teach a different grade every summer so that I knew more about every grade and every content area. And then I decided, if I could have such a big impact on the students in my classroom, I wonder what that impact would be like if I was a principal or an administrator, because then I could impact more students, more families, more staff. And I just started praying about it, ended up going back to school and getting my master's degree, and started working as an administrator. Shortly thereafter, I became summer school principals. I was an executive director of early childhood programs, different ones in Lincoln and Omaha and Iowa. And then right before I came to Project Harmony, I was a principal at a private parochial school.
Oh my gosh, there's so many things I want to talk on about that you brought up, but I love that your grandma was calling out those things in you at an early age, like the power of seeing you and then saying that. And so normally I don't jump in here, but I have to jump in. I was teaching, I think it was like my 8th year of teaching, but it was in a new building for me. So it's a new principal. I'm just getting to learn the ropes, and it was my first formal observation. So she comes in and does the observation, and then at the end of the observation, she says, Jenny, has anyone ever told you you're really good at this? And then she tells me, and I was like, no one has ever told me that. But the fact that someone paid attention, she could have kept it to herself and then told me, it made me want to go back to my classroom and tell the students all the things I saw that they were good at. And then I wanted to do that for teachers too, because it's so powerful.
It really is.
Your words have power to speak life or death, right, into somebody. And as educators, we want to speak life. We want to call it those blessings. We want to instill hope in the children, because they're going to be the ones that are here when we're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so the article that we read was about graphic organizers, which is a mouthful when you say it about 500 times. Interactive versus filled in versus non, and it was a whole lot. But the takeaway from it was that the interactive growth or graphic organizers had more benefits for students. Okay, so I think I'm starting with you, Tanya, I guess. Okay. Given the research suggests that these can increase retention and comprehension in students, what do you recommend for educators to either introduce these or integrate them into the tools that they use in their classrooms?
Well, after reading the article and also just reflecting back on my own experience as a teacher, but also a teacher and trainer of others, I realized that I don't think there is a good lesson without a graphic organizer, whether it is interactive or if it's one that's already filled in. I feel like it's so crucial to be able to move the learning that we're doing when we're reading a text, whether it be online or in person, from our short-term memory to our working memory to our long-term memory, and from abstract to concrete. And the best way to do that is with a graphic organizer.
Yeah, it allows you to really make connections.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's just print on a page. Yeah,
Exactly.
Forces you to wrestle with that.
Absolutely.
So, okay, so Ashley, based on your experience, what types of organizers or interactive tools have you found to be most effective when you're trying to foster critical thinking and comprehension in your students?
So as a special education teacher, graphic organizers are like our Bible, we'll call it.
Yeah.
It's what we live, breathe, and die by. We use them in every subject. And honestly, we use them, it's probably the first thing that almost every special education teacher puts on IEPs, so individualized education plans. It's one of the first things we put. Because you're right, it does. It fosters so much knowledge just by, it organizes it. It gives us a plan, and it tells us what we need to understand. And so the ones that we use the most, I think, are things like Venn diagrams and concept maps. Concept maps we use a lot at the beginning in every subject, because it gets us to understand as teachers what our students are understanding about the content or the topic that we're talking about. So if it's on a math concept, even like addition, what do you guys know about addition? And then you could come up with, it could be anything. It'd be like, how much money I have to, 2 + 2 is 4. So it just gives us such a wide range to understand where they're at with the content that it's just a guiding force for us as teachers. And so it's a starting point, and it's an end point. Like, what did they gain from this? How can they structure what they know? Another one we use a lot is the KWLs. What you know, what you want to know, and then what you've learned. And so like seeing the progression in that and over time is awesome. And so they're used in every subject. And now even our textbooks are online a lot. And so every online textbook has the option to fill those in. And so you can pull information from those textbooks directly from the text onto that graphic organizer.
Beautiful.
And they have filled in ones for you. They have examples. They show you on the online resources how to use them, which is awesome too. I personally am a pen and paper type person.
Me too.
So I like the pen and paper. But as teachers, we use those every day. I think we start every lesson. I don't know in math or in science, even social studies, English, that I don't think there's a subject that I haven't used one in.
Yeah.
In my career, to be honest.
Love it. Okay, so I think I asked that. I clearly got these out of order. Okay, so I love this question though. Okay, so Tanya, in your new role, or your current role, you are training adults, and probably as an instructional leader in your previous role, you were doing professional development for adults. How have you, or how could you imagine using graphic organizers for adults to help them solidify the learning that you're giving them?
Yeah, I don't even think it's imagined. It's how do you do it? It's a necessary part of what we do.
Love.
And so I think the first thing that we do is when we're designing a lesson or a training, we think about the content. And the content is the first thing that we think about. And once we have that content, that objective that we want to be learned, then we start thinking, okay, well, what do I want the thinker to be thinking about? What do I want them to be learning? And that helps us to design the graphic organizer based upon that. And so it might look different depending upon the content and on the learning. If it's asynchronous learning, it's going to be more filled in for the learner because there's not that opportunity to interact with each other. But if it is in-person learning, then we're absolutely going to do it as an interactive graphic organizer. But it goes back to that beginning of the planning of the lesson, of the planning of the training, and how we want our learners to think and to learn and to process information.
I love that question. What do I want them to be thinking about?
Yeah.
And when us as the educator take the lead on doing the thinking for students, we're robbing them of the opportunity to transfer that knowledge from working memory, if it's even there yet, to long-term memory. Yeah, so good. Okay, Ashley, my last question for you is, how has using graphic organizers influenced engagement in your students?
So engagement's really based on buy-in and their confidence in using it. So I think, and my experience and what I've read, even on the article, is that to get them to use it and to engage in it, it has to be taught. It has to be scaffolded. It has to be modeled. And then we have to use it. We have to practice it. Doing it once is not going to get them to be confident enough to do it by themselves and to really engage their learning in that way. And so the more repetition we have with using a variety of graphic organizers or any type of learning tool, the more that we use it, the more that we model it, and the more that we as teachers are utilizing it as a teaching tool in front of everyone, in front of our colleagues, in front of our students, it's going to be one of those things that becomes second nature, and they are engaged in it, and they're willing to do it. And also I feel when they're able to do it in a way that makes sense to them, like letting them choose, like we have a whole pile in my classroom full of them, and so they get to pick which one they want to use on what we're learning or what they're reading. And so I feel the more that you give them the opportunity to use it as a choice, choices are huge, especially in high school. Very stubborn.
Huge.
Even in middle school, when I taught middle school, it is a huge engagement piece because they're choosing it, it's their choice, and they know how to do it. They've seen us do it. They've learned from them already. And so it's just one of those things that becomes second nature, and then they're always willing to do it because they feel confident in their abilities, and they feel confident they're going to learn the material well enough to do well on the next test or exam, project, even papers. Like we use them every day to write papers, and so it's just such a great learning tool for them to stay engaged because they know how to use it and they feel confident in doing it.
You said so many good things, especially that we can offer a tool to students, but if we haven't taught them how it's going to benefit you and how to interact with it, we're not helping them at all. And then also choice is so powerful. So once you've given them multiple different ways, giving them the opportunity to choose how then they engage with that is awesome. Okay, so because educators are human, we're just going to do a quick fun round of if you could live anywhere in the world, where would you choose?
I can answer that one.
Okay, you go.
I would choose the Maldives. I'm a huge scuba diver, and so it's supposedly one of the best diving sites in the world. I've never been, but hopefully it's my to-do list for sure. Oh yes, absolutely.
Okay. You're a diver and you've been a swim coach.
I have. So, I love swimming as well.
Okay.
Maybe you can teach me how to swim because I need how to swim. But my dream vacation would be somewhere by the water, so I kind of need to learn how to swim. I read in a book or an article that there's this place called Turtle Island. I don't know if it's real or if it's not, but the water is like so clear and it has these reflective properties at night. So that would be my dream vacation. And of course it wouldn't be perfect unless my family was with me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely. So fun. Okay. So we're going to shift our focus to the future of education. So as you think about what's on the horizon or what's next, what are you most either excited about or hopeful for our educational future?
I'm really hopeful that we can encourage more people to become teachers. I love teaching. Like it's my joy, my passion. I enjoy it. I could do it every day, all day and be okay and thrive. And so I hope in the future that we just have more people that love it as much as I do because it really is just so powerful and so awesome. So
I guarantee you've had students who have seen you and go, wow, she loves what she does. I want to do that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
A lot of them reach out after they graduate, which is fun.
That is fun.
Yes, I do love it. I love it a lot.
I love it. Tanya, what about you?
Yeah, I would kind of back up what you were saying in the fact of I feel a little bit sad right now because the current state of education, we're losing teachers. And there's many reasons for why that may be. But a big part of it, I think, is because having to shift focus during the pandemic and learn how to do things so quickly caused a lot of stress. Also, just being in a pandemic kind of caused trauma to all of us, right? It was like a collective trauma. And then our students were not able to engage with each other. And so there was some social emotional needs that didn't get met. When you add all of those things together, it's kind of a perfect storm for teachers. And so my hope would be that we can get teachers back. And I think the best way to do that is by Hope Science. I don't know if you guys have learned about Hope Science. So hope science, there's evidence and studies, over 2,000 research studies that show that hope is teachable, that it's tangible, and it's the #1 predictor of future well-being. And so if you can learn, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about my grandma, hope is having goals, the agency that you can believe and have a brighter future than you do today, and having multiple pathways to get there. And I think our educational system has lost a little bit of hope. So we need to instill that hope within them and our future, so that we can get back to where we need, and having classrooms full of teachers that are full of hope and want to be there. And then the children and the youth and the adult learners can also be those hope champions. And I'm excited about what that possibility brings with this whole new study on hope science.
Oh, I love it. And I hope that you got something great out of this conversation. It could be about a specific graphic organizer, or it could just be about our hope for the future. And we're winding down the conversation, but the conversation isn't over. We would love to invite you to be a part of this conversation, and you can do that a couple of different ways. You can just put your comments right in the YouTube link there, or we have an online platform called Empowered Educators that we would love to engage with you there. And I hope that you heard something today that you'll take back and have a conversation with one of your colleagues about something in the study or just something you heard today. If you are a passionate educator who would like to share their own perspectives and insights, I would love to have you here on set here at KPAO in Omaha. So you just need to scan that QR code and let me know who you are and what you're passionate about. And then an initiative that we are super excited about here at Edu Talk is our monthly teacher highlight. And we really want to shine a light on the heroes of education that we get to work with every day. There are so many people doing amazing things in education, and we just need to let people know what they're doing. So if you know someone who is making a difference, you can nominate them and we will recognize them. We will go out in the field and we'll capture some video with them and we'll recognize them, and then we'll feature them on a future episode. So please go do that. And in the meantime, thank you for serving in education, and I hope to see you next time here on Edu Talk.